Hello, and welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. I'm your host today, Dr. Sabrina Starling, and I am thrilled to be joined by Sara Nay. She is the author of the new book, Unchained, which is the third, correct, Sara? Third book in the
Yep,
Duct Tape
third.
Marketing series. And Sara is the CEO of Duct Tape Marketing. So she and I are very aligned in work supports life, not the other way around. And there's multiple ways that we're aligned. And what I really love about Unchained is it's about strategy, not tactics, and building relationship with an understanding with really who your top client is at their heart and at their core. So we're going to be diving into all of that, but I want you to know a little bit more about Sara as we get started. She helps small businesses turn marketing strategy into scalable systems their teams can actually execute. Since 2010, she's worked with thousands of business owners and fractional CMOs, blending big picture strategy with scalable operations. A passionate trainer at heart, Sara's mission is to empower others to lead from their zone of genius and build marketing teams that can actually get the work done. Sara is also the author of the book Unchained, Breaking Free of Broken Marketing Models, with the mission to help small businesses take back ownership of their marketing instead of renting it. Boy, that's a statement right there, Sara. We at Tap the Potential have walked that journey and we now own our marketing. And when we were renting it out, oh my gosh, the money that flew out the window and the heartburn for me as the owner. So I believe
Yeah.
in what the message is that you have in Unchained for us. So let's just kick off with what inspired you to write Unchained?
Well, thank you first for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And what inspired me to write Unchained? Honestly, I've been in the marketing space, as you said in my intro, since 2010. And so as Duct Tape Marketing as a company, we've always been a marketing agency. And my book is talking about how the agency model is breaking ultimately. Because I've lived on the agency side, I've experienced the challenges and the struggles that agencies experience. So things like maintaining profitability as you scale and meeting client demands and staying up with all things marketing changing on a rapid basis. But also, I've worked with hundreds, thousands of small business owners, and many of them coming to us at Duct Tape Marketing with stories of their experience working with other agencies, kind of as you mentioned earlier. And so things like, I worked with this agency for years and they owned my website, my domain, and hosting, and we decided to leave them. And I lost one of the most important assets of my business, which is our website, because they had the control of our website. I hear stories like, I'm working with a contractor and they're running our paid ads and they own the account. And I have no idea if we're actually getting results because they send us these reports on a monthly basis. And I just keep paying because I know I need to be paying for marketing. And so that's really the challenge in small business when it comes to marketing, is when small businesses completely outsource their control versus staying involved and being educated along the way. And so a lot of the motivation behind writing Unchained was to help people understand, small businesses, to understand how to approach marketing strategically and how to find marketing partners to help execute versus simply outsourcing and losing control.
Yes, that just makes huge sense.
Yeah.
And I know that on a personal level for you, this isn't just seeing things from a big picture from the business, but you've also had your own aha moments. You had a Monday evening moment. Would you share a little bit about what that was?
Of course. So that was years ago now. I was, because I've been with Duct Tape Marketing for quite some time. I started as an intern and have had various other seats over the years. And so at that point, I was an account manager and I was managing all of our clients pretty much. And I was managing all of our execution team. I was trying to be a strategist and I was also trying to handle execution. So essentially, I had a lot on my plate at that time. And my daughter, who was only a few months old, was actually home sick from daycare. And I remember distinctly, we were sitting on the couch. She was laying on my chest, and a little baby that size, like she was having a difficult time breathing because she was sick. And so she was that wheezing. You can feel the whole chest going up and down. And I had my phone behind her and I was texting a client back and forth because we were arguing about a social media image that was going to go out and the shade of blue that was used. And at that moment, I just set my phone down and I was like, what am I doing? I got into business to support my family, to not got into business, but I'm pursuing my career path to be able to support my kids and to create a great life for them, but also to be there for them regardless of what's happening at work. And so I went on a hike that day and I came down and actually called our founder, John Jantz, who also is my dad, and just had a conversation with him of this isn't sustainable. I can't keep doing this. And so we uncovered what was causing, the stress and the issues and me not being able to be present for my family. And it was really because of the way we are serving clients. I was holding on to too much. I was filling too many different roles. And so that's when we went down the path as a business to divide our marketing department up to having fractional CMOs and account managers serving clients moving forward. And that's been really our core focus for our business model ever since that moment is one person can't do it all, especially when it comes to marketing. Often you need someone that can be higher level, more strategic, and then you need someone that can be more in the weeds and keeping all the pieces moving forward. And so now today, I've been able to step out of our consulting and for all of our clients that come in, they always get one of our fractional CMOs and then one of our account managers as a team.
So just let's talk about that from the client's perspective. Like
Yeah.
I get it from a business strategy perspective. That makes a ton of sense to do it that way. How does that make it better for the small businesses that you're serving?
Yeah. So with marketing, there's just so many elements involved. So you have to be good at analytics and metrics. You have to be good at strategy. You have to be good at all the different channels. You have to be good at communication and connection and building trust. And there's just so many elements when it comes to marketing that where a lot of small businesses struggle is they might bring in one person and ask them to do all of those things. On top of it, marketing is changing at an incredibly rapid pace right now with everything AI. I mean, SEO from where it is today versus where it was 6 months or a year ago is completely different. And so, on top of it, everything's changing. And so, the value that we're able to bring our clients when we work in teams like we do is we have a dedicated fractional CMO, and that person is tasked with strategy, understanding the business strategy, creating a marketing strategy that supports the growth goals, overseeing all of the execution from a high level, owning the metrics, owning the budget. So they're really higher level strategists that are leading marketing departments in a sense. And then we have an account manager, and those people are incredibly detail oriented, obsessed with deadlines. Those are some of the things I hire for. And they're tasked with communicating with the client and communicating with our team to help all of the execution move forward and hit the deadlines. And so that fractional CMO can stay in that strategist role. Also on our team, we have people that are, deeper in different areas of marketing. So things like content or social media or SEO. And so we're able to really build out a marketing department as our clients need. And I think that's really what it's hard for small businesses to hire all of those roles.
Yes.
But when you're able to bring in people fractional, like our model, you're able to fill those roles with a lot less of an investment than it would be hiring full-time staff.
Yes. So, as a hiring expert in small business, I've written the book How to Hire the Best.
Yeah.
You're really hitting something that I preach all the time is that when you hire someone for a role in your business, you want to have a clearly defined result. Like that person can only get one thing done in a given
Yep.
day or a given week. What is the one thing that pertains to the sweet spot of the business and drives the profitability? And then once you know what that is, you hire for the strengths needed to do that
Yes.
exceptionally well, which is great for a delivery aspect in a small business. when it comes to marketing, like you just said, there are so many different aspects of marketing, and there's high level. And by the way, I love how you break out the high level KPIs versus the
Mm.
more micro levels, tactical KPIs to track. Um, you, one person can't do all those things exceptionally well day in and day out. It's impossible to hire for those strengths. And then a small business owner is faced with, well, okay, so now I need to hire like 20 people, but I can't
Mhm.
afford that. And they're only doing small bits every week. So that's where being able to work with a fractional CMO and an account manager, and where those strengths can really be drawn in, and you don't have to hire it into your business.
Yeah, absolutely. But the biggest thing that the book talks about a lot as well is, when you're bringing in a fractional CMO and account manager, again, you're not just saying, "Okay, go fix our marketing." You really want to be involved in the whole process. And so I introduced the idea of what we call our business strategy pyramid. And so essentially, the bottom level is creating the business strategy. What are you trying to accomplish from a business standpoint? What are your vision, your mission, your values, your revenue currently? Where are you going? You got to be able to answer those questions before you can then say, okay, let's create a marketing strategy. And you can bring in a fractional CMO to help guide through the marketing strategy creation process, which I would recommend if you're listening and you don't have a ton of marketing experience yourself. But you want to be involved in the process. And so you understand what's being done and why the recommendations are being made. And then after you create the marketing strategy, a good marketing strategy should end on what are the 4 to 6 biggest growth priorities and what's an execution calendar look like for the next few months. Then you're able to answer, okay, who do we need to actually work on these specific things? And that's where a lot of businesses, I think, get hiring for marketing a little bit backwards. It's like we'll bring in people and then figure out the plan. And so I'm a big believer in no, figure out the plan, because then you can answer, okay, what are we going to actually do? Who do we currently have on our team? Where are gaps? And then you can answer the question of, do we need humans, or can we do AI for some of this stuff today? And so that's really, I think, an important way to approach it is staying involved and thinking of it strategy first before even thinking about hiring anyone, whether full time or contractors or agencies in the marketing space.
Absolutely. Strategy first, big picture. And I just want to underscore, the business owner needs to be involved. You don't
Yep.
just toss this off and say, okay, this is being handled over here. So you bring in AI into Unchained and into this conversation, and we are seeing so many small business owners get lost in
Mm.
AI. And or they're either totally lost and not sure how to use it, or using it in one very defined way, like just create social media posts, which again, without a strategy, can really go off the rails fast. So what are you seeing with respect to strategic effective use of AI when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, it seems like with AI, there was all of this excitement, and then everyone started bringing in all these different tools, and now the excitement is starting to settle, and people are having the conversation of, okay, how are we actually going to make an impact with these tools? Because a lot of businesses are bringing them in, and they're creating more noise, and so approaching it strategically is key. One of the exercises that I talk about a lot is essentially analyzing, for yourself as a business owner and with your whole team as well, like how are you currently spending your time, and doing a bit of a time audit, essentially writing down all the skills or tasks or things you're doing on a consistent basis, and then analyzing that list for what out of these things are growing in importance because of AI and they're human dependent, what are staying a little bit more stable, and what's decreasing in importance because of AI. And then when you have that list, think about how can you bring in AI to support you on those things that are staying stable or decreasing in value, so you can free up more time to focus on the things that are increasing in value because of AI. And so if you start there by analyzing your time, then you're not thinking about oh, let's just bring in this tool and figure out how to use it. It's, I'm doing these things already. How can I delegate some of it to AI so that I can spend more time on higher payoff activities, things like communication and empathy and strategy and all of the things that are us as humans do really well over AI. And so that's a great exercise to think about. But then once you identify, okay, I'm going to bring in ChatGPT, for example, to do these items. Then you need to approach bringing in a tool strategically once you've identified what it is. And so, before we use ChatGPT or any platform like LLM like that for our clients, like there needs to be an extensive training period on the front end in terms of training the AI solution with things like your ideal client and your tone of voice and your leadership stories and ideal client interviews and messaging and all of that stuff, because then when you start using a tool like ChatGPT to support you, it's not creating generic information. It's going off of what you've already fed it for the most part. And then the very last step in the process then is, okay, you've identified what tools to bring in, you've trained them strategically. Then you need to put guidelines and systems and processes in place for your team to use the tools, because that's another area where I see a lot of small businesses struggle is they'll start bringing in these tools and one person's doing this thing and the next person's doing this. And all of a sudden, like the output is completely inconsistent and not on brand. And so then putting, specific processes and guidelines in place so everyone is using the tools the same way is the last kind of piece of that puzzle.
Oh my gosh, that piece right there is so critical because like you said, if two people are using it in two different ways, you can get completely different output, and that can really blow your strategy and create a very confused marketing message right off the bat. I know that you and Duct Tape Marketing, you guys are so strong in really speaking to the heart of ideal clients.
Mm.
And there's a lot of alignment there. We at Tap the Potential incorporate the sweet spot from the pumpkin plan in what we do. And it's very similar to what you talk about in the Duct Tape Marketing series. And you have a tool even that is available in Unchained to assist with that. Talk a little bit about that ideal client deep dive worksheet that's in Unchained.
Of course. And before Unchained was written, I'll start by saying we've been doing ideal client work with our clients for 31 years at this point, and so it's not a new concept.
Yeah.
But I would actually argue that it's gaining in importance in the age of AI, because now when we're doing our strategic work for clients, we always start with building ideal client profiles, and then we can think about what message resonates with those people, and then you can go from there. But now, when we're working through strategy, we're building ideal client profiles, again, kind of like I was talking about, for two purposes: to train humans and team on the ideal clients, but also to train AI solutions on the ideal clients moving forward. So then we can create really targeted content based on them moving forward. And so with ideal clients, though, just to kind of give you a rundown of how we think about things and what I talked about in Unchained in the worksheet is, a lot of times when we start working with businesses, you'll say, tell me who your ideal clients are. And they'll give kind of a high level, somewhat broad answer, sharing a lot of like demographics, where people live, their age range, their salary, just higher level stuff, which is step one in a lot of cases. But really, to connect with your ideal clients, you need to know them on a much deeper level. And so in Unchained, I talk about learning about them as a person, as an individual, what keeps them up at night, what stresses them out, where are they currently from a pain point perspective, so you can understand what they're feeling, to then tell the story of how you can take them from where they are to where they're hoping to go. And so it's really connecting with people as individuals, as humans on an emotional level. So you can write content and you can build trust and you can connect with them. That's also something that I think is gaining in importance with AI, because there is a lot of generic content. More people are putting out tons of volume volume.
Yeah.
And so when you can stop someone when they're scrolling on their feed or wherever they might be with content that feels like you're speaking to them, that you took the time to understand them, there's going to be a lot of interest and trust built in early on versus if you're speaking to everyone.
This is what I think is so fascinating about AI. It frees us when it's used right and strategically, the way you're describing, it frees us up as human beings to connect with our
Yep.
ideal clients. Like we now have time because we're not having to create all this marketing content. We have support for doing
Yep.
that. And then we, the humans, once they've responded to our messaging that has been built around what's keeping them awake at night, what are those psychological pain points, what are the emotions they're feeling, what is it that our ideal clients are wanting most, and really messaging there, then we're freed up to have conversations and deepen the trust with them. What in your experience, Sarah, what are the most important aspects of building trust with our ideal clients, and why do we need to be paying attention to that in our marketing?
Yeah. We have another foundational concept of duct tape marketing, something we call the marketing hourglass. And so that's our view of the customer journey. And it's essentially how can people get to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer your business. And so if we're breaking that down, what you're really thinking about is marketing with know, like, and trust, sales with try and buy, and then customer experience with repeat and refer. And so if you're really looking at how can we build trust with our prospects and also our clients, you really need to think through all of those phases of the customer journey and how are you showing up in all of those phases and how are you providing value and how are you communicating well? Because your best clients will be able to go through that customer journey and they end up on refer, and then they refer, you to their friends and family, and then those people can move through your customer journey so much quicker because there's
Yes.
that trust built in. But again, a lot of it comes down to I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is there's a lot of companies out there that I've experienced personally where, they spend all of this time on marketing and building trust and authority and selling. And so they have this incredible process for marketing and sales. And then you become a client. And then all of a sudden it feels like you're a bit of an afterthought. They got your money
Mhm.
and they've, done what they needed. And so then they spend more time focusing on getting more and more clients. But the companies that grow consistently and successfully, I believe, are focusing on marketing and focusing on sales, and they're producing content and they're connecting through that process. But they don't forget about you after you become a client. They actually put more emphasis on onboarding and communicating and staying top of mind and providing more and more value than you expected. Those are the companies that retain clients, and those are the companies that build referral sources. And so if you're thinking about how can we build more trust, it's not just a question on how can we build more trust in marketing, it's how can you build more trust in marketing, sales, and customer support. And that's where true growth is going to happen.
Amen. I give you a walking testimonial for that because years ago at Tap the Potential, we went through a significant downturn where our business had grown, and then all of a sudden it wasn't growing, and not only was it not growing, it was declining. And when we and our leadership team really started looking at this, we thought, well, we could put a lot more emphasis on our marketing, or we could go over here and look at our delivery. And
Yeah,
we decided to focus on delivery first before the marketing. And when we started doing that, our net promoter scores came back up. They had been very high, but then they had dropped off and then they came back up
great.
within a few months. And what we're seeing now, like with everything going on in the economy, a lot of coaching companies' revenue is dropping off. Ours is not. And what we're hearing from our clients is, I've been in one coaching company after another. I've tried different coaching solutions and I wasn't going to do it again, but you guys got me. And I thought I'd give it one more shot. And now that I'm in the door, you tell us exactly what to do, when to do it. You have clear communication. We know what to expect and we trust you.
Yeah.
And we see our clients renewing year over year. So that speaks to the retention that you're describing. So I just want to underscore what you just said is marketing is so important, and absolutely you need to know your ideal client, but make sure once they are in the door, you are everything and more that you promised through the marketing, because that's what's really going to lead to a business that can scale and be sustainable over time.
Yeah, and I would imagine you said your clients are coming back and renewing year after year, but they're also probably telling people they know about you
Yeah.
as well through referrals because,
Yes.
people are always like, I need to build this referral program. And yes, absolutely. Like our founder, John, has written a full book on referrals. It's a great read. But my argument is as long as you're taking care of people and you're meeting expectations, exceeding expectations throughout the whole entire customer journey, like if they're getting an impact from the services that you're providing, they're just naturally going to tell people about you when it comes
Mhm.
up in conversations. So, yes, referral programs are important, but as long as you're taking care of people, they're not only going to retain, but they're going to talk about you in their networking groups and their masterminds and with their friends, wherever, because you're truly meeting and exceeding expectations. And unfortunately, not enough businesses do that
Yeah,
anymore.
absolutely. So I think we have probably really piqued our listeners' interest here in reading Unchained. Sarah, what is going to be different for that business owner that is spinning in circles, trying to do all the things and recognizing from some of the things that you described that marketing is not as effective and not as strategic as it could be, and they're curious about reading Unchained? What's going to be different for that business owner after they've read Unchained?
Yeah, and marketing is more complicated right now than it's ever been. And so there's a lot of people that are frustrated, uncertain, not sure what steps to take next. And so the whole goal of writing Unchained was it's not just a book that hopefully sits on a bookshelf, it's a blueprint on how to take a step back, how to create the marketing strategy, how to have the right team in place, how to bring people in to support you moving forward. And so instead of just playing the guessing game and not knowing what to do next, think of Unchained as your roadmap for a clear path forward.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And where can we get copies of Unchained?
Amazon, Unchained Breaking Free from Broken Marketing Models is the full title. Sara Nay is my name. I'm the author. And then also unchainedmodel.com as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me on.